Hi, everybody. My name is Mike Manning.
And I'm Trinity French.
And we are your business coaches at Wired to Change.
With the number 2.
We help you get your small business to the level you want it to be so you can enjoy the life of a small business owner. Trinity,
Mike.
We have a guest today who I think qualifies as our most loyal listener, other than your Scott.
This is my work Scott.
Yes.
Yes.
Very good. Yes.
This is the other Scott.
Because I could not, with help, introduce a guest better than you do. It's always you introducing the guest.
Oh, man. And now the pressure is on. The pressure is on. But we have a very, 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 very special guest. Our dear friend, referral partner, business associate, Mr. Scott Sams with Dynamic Print Solutions. I have known Scott for
a long time.
Probably
more than 10 years, probably.
Yeah, more than 10 years.
Oh, really? I didn't know it went back that far.
And he has been doing our real estate signs for as long as I've known him. If I had to describe Scott in one word, I would say genuine.
Oh, thank you.
He runs an amazing shop. I cannot speak highly enough of the team that you've assembled over there. And I think we're going to have a great time today.
Sounds great. I'm looking forward to it. Thanks
Excellent.
for the warm welcome.
And
Yes.
Scott has told us that he's listened to every episode. If you listen to, I think it was episode 4, about 4 or 5 episodes back, Trinity and I got into a discussion of what you wear at Walmart on a Saturday.
Yes,
and
I
then
did
you
listen to
referenced the
that.
conversation. That was so. Trinity told the story about somebody she talked to about dressing better, and that was our Scott here. So
Yep.
he does.
I came in the next meeting after listening to that, and I was dressed
And you
different.
look absolutely spectacular today.
Well, thank you very much, Trinity.
Yeah,
I appreciate that.
I can see the dress pants and the
nice
beautiful
shirt.
blue button down. Yes.
And my connection to Scott is I would recommend him for 2 reasons. One, the work's very, very good, but I wouldn't even tell you about that. I'd just tell you he's a good dude. So if he tells you he's going to do it, he's going to do it. So
Thank you, Mike.
we are happy to have Scott here. One of the neat stories Scott has as a small business owner, because he's had his company in different visions and versions since 2001. But I like the story because it talks evolution. And one of the things Trinity and I have talked about on multiple shows is how do you scale? How do you grow? How do you keep up with the times? I mean, technology in the printing world has gone from 1 to about a 40 and a half.
Yep.
And just the evolution of the company, we're going to kind of get through that on this show and just kind of keeping up with the times. And I love that part of it. So 2001, let's go to 2000. You're sitting at home talking with the missus. You know what? I need to start a business.
Yeah, so we'll go all the way back to the beginning and start there. So I was in the IT field in the banking industry back in 2000, and I had been in that business for a while, but not real excited about where things were going, and had always had an itch to get out on my own, and probably all along had been looking for ways to maybe even unconsciously, but trying to figure that out. And in 2001, I decided I would try something. You know, we always think about things we want to do, but we never take action. So I decided, well, I'm going to take some kind of action. So I did, and I started a small business called Captured Memories. You mentioned that. And the goal of that business was to help people get the photos that they had in their drawers and the videos of their kids that they had sitting on reels or on VHS tapes or whatever, getting those into a digital form, because I love technology and I knew how to do that. And I thought that would be a good use of my skills. So that's kind of where I started, not having any idea where it was going to lead.
Was that a side hustle?
It was a side job. In fact, we can talk more about that. But from 2001 to 2010, it was all side.
Okay. Right.
So we can dig into that.
And when you mentioned the reel to reel, Trinity has no idea. She grew up in the digital age. She has no There's no footage of you and your brother on reel to reel, is there?
Not on reel to reel, but I was the queen of the quippy dance video.
Oh, yeah, you hammed it up. Yeah.
I was definitely a little cheese, but I was just thinking, man, in 1999 and 2001, I
you
went on
6?
some big. No, I was 99. I graduated from high school.
Oh.
My email address was loving99 at hotmail.com.
Nice.
I hope somebody has that now. Please email that. Just whoever it is. Just say Trinity says hi.
But I took a lot of photos as a high schooler. And when I went abroad, I took, I don't know, no less than 20 cameras with me, disposable cameras. And when I came back and printed all of those pictures, I definitely could have used your services because I still have them sitting in albums. Do you still do that at all?
No.
No. Okay.
Do you know somebody that does it anymore?
Walmart.
Walmart.
Yeah.
The scanner.
So, yeah,
my
there you go.
husband, Scott.
Yeah.
Actually,
Here,
I think
baby.
now that you mention it, I think I know somebody that does that, but go on. So, yeah.
Yeah, so I learned from that your time is valuable, and so I learned very quickly that the time required to do that that people were not going to pay me what I would need to be paid to do that work and me make any money at that. So that lasted for a little while, maybe about 18 months to 2 years. I don't remember exactly, but
If you go back to your first client or two, can you give us a sense of what you charged them and what they asked you to say to?
Yeah, probably the first couple of customers were family, and I would say they probably paid me a couple $100, and I probably did, 30 or 40 hours worth of work for a couple $100. Yeah, so
But that's how you learn bad math. We laugh about it now, but that's how you learn.
that's right. Yeah, I wouldn't know if I hadn't tried, and I don't regret trying. So that's one of the things that's important when you've got an idea. If you don't try, you may regret it later. If you do try and you fail, then you learn something.
So we get to 2004, you actually changed the name
That's
to
right.
Dynamic Print Solutions, yet it was still what we call today a side hustle, right?
It was still a hot side hustle, yes, but it had transformed from being that digital capture business into a printing business, mostly indoor durable stuff, not the business I have today. But that transformation came as a result of realizing that I needed something different than the capture memories thing, and just listening to the people I was working with and hearing kind of what they were asking for. And so they were asking me about printing large format, like they wanted poster size things and that kind of thing of some of the stuff that I was digitizing for them. And that got me interested in finding out what kind of equipment was out there to do that for them, and also what kind of investment it would take in order to do that. I didn't have a lot of money, and so it needed to be something that I could afford. So it turns out that I was able to get in at the entry level without a lot of investment, and so that made it feasible.
And you did that out of the
transition.
garage with the Epson wide format printer?
That's right, out of my house. It was a 44-inch wide printer that took up half of a room, and I did that for a while. I did that for 2 years out of a house.
Oh, wow.
Out of my house, yep.
Were you, at some point in time, you saw you got to another level working in the house?
That's right.
And then was it then you and Patty had to sit down and figure out, okay, we either go big or go home?
That's right. Well, we had to. She was kicking me out of the house, basically.
Lovingly,
so
right,
we had to. So what part of it was she wasn't kicking me out of the house, but I wanted to grow, and in order to grow, I had to figure out how to make my stuff more durable. In order to do that, I had to buy a printer that was capable of lasting outdoors, which meant that it had not ideal exhaust, let's put it that way. So the fumes that it put off was not something that you would want to be breathing in your house all
Right.
the time. So that was really the motivator for moving out. And so I found a small space up in Youngsville. I think I paid $500 a month for it. And it was basically one room and a garage, and I put the printer in the garage part, and I worked out of the room part, and that was what I did
Perfect.
initially.
And it
Yep.
was just you
just me
in the
Yep.
in the garage in the room?
That's right.
Did
Yep.
clients, did they look at you different, like, oh, he's got his own place now, versus working out of the house? Did that matter?
I wouldn't say they did, because most people didn't know. I did not advertise a physical location or anything like that, so my customers didn't know where I was working at that time.
And how did they find you? What was the primary mode that your clients were finding you for these print jobs?
Yeah, so all of my business for until 2010 really was all word of mouth. It was all referral business, and you're very familiar with that. And just doing a good job, and then having the next person, having the customer refer to the next customer, and move from there.
Did you find that you were doing the smaller, and I say smaller jobs just to compare for the question, that some of these big printers that you are now that just didn't want to do or weren't doing?
Yes, I was doing anything and everything, and some things that I probably shouldn't have been doing. So yes, that's the answer to that question. And I did have the opportunity through my church and through other areas around me. I had contacts that were people that could provide recurring business for me, and I think that's what helped me kind of get a jump start. But during that entire time up till 2010, it was not the income that I depended on for a living. So I was still working in IT, still in banking, just doing that as a part-time thing.
Do you still have a client from that garage day?
I probably have several, yeah.
Nice.
My church obviously was one of the first clients I had that was a recurring client, and obviously they still use me, and I have several others that have been around the whole time.
And we've talked about this on other episodes. That is the ultimate stamp of approval. In
recurring
my mind.
revenue.
Oh,
yes.
We've been with Scott for 15 years. Do I need to know anything more? If I trust her, do I need to know anything more other than, oh, yeah, he's been doing my stuff for 15 years?
Yeah.
I think that says a lot about you.
It does, yep.
So, Scott, what would you say is your greatest success thus far?
My greatest success. Wow.
I know what the answer should be, but you answer it the way you want to.
Okay. I have no idea what you're thinking. So I would say probably the greatest success was the ability for me to make the transition from working for someone else to working for myself. That, I mean, we all know that the statistics and all that stuff, that you have almost no chance, from the ground getting started. But even if you get started, your chances are slim until you've been around for a little while. And so I do see it as a success that I was able to do that. And there were some factors that made that possible. But yes, I think that was probably the biggest thing for me was making that move.
What factors would you say attributed to that the most?
Yeah, so the biggest thing was that I was working for a bank that was bought by another bank back in the 2008 era when everything was going downhill fast. And that transaction, as soon as that occurred, I knew that I did not want to continue in the banking business, not the sign business. I want to stay in that one.
That'll ruin the show.
Yeah. So I, from that point on, I knew that my path was not going to go down the avenue of staying with the bank and going through that whole thing. And so I just made that known up front. I was transparent with my employer. I told them that I wanted to pursue other interests, but I would like to stay and do whatever I can to help you through this transition. And they rewarded that. They gave me plenty of freedom, first of all, while I was still there. I did what they wanted, which was transition them to the new bank, and then they gave me a severance, which that was very helpful, because that meant that I had something to fall back on if things were tough.
You had your savings, you had your runway set.
Yeah, and I did have to dip into that. It was absolutely critical that it be there. So I would say to someone starting a business now that you do need to, if you want any chance at all of being successful, you do have to have something that you can get you through those months when you don't have any jobs.
And this probably answers the question. In 2001, if you'd have left the bank and done a clean break from the bank to Scott Sams Inc., are you still here today talking about
I would have failed in 6 months.
Really?
I would have been gone in 6 months. It would not have taken long, because in 2001, I had no understanding of what I needed to do to run a business. I was very, very, very fresh, and I've learned a lot.
I admire you.
Thank you.
I think one of the attributes that you have that we probably share is we both love process improvement and systematizing things and statistics
Lord,
and
here
numbers.
goes the next half hour right now between these
Listen
two folks.
closely.
If you can
Listen,
see the
Mike.
smiles on their faces.
Yeah, we've got some big old grins over here.
I'll be back in 20 minutes
What
again.
steps do you take when you have an idea and you want to make a process improvement?
That's a very good question. You're challenging me today. So the first thing I do is I try to capture the idea on paper first and try to get an idea of, how, first of all, is it just completely crazy, because I do have some of those. And then I take that information and then I start to think about, what can I leverage that I already have in order to move into this new thing or to change this process or whatever, or how much will it cost to change that? So I kind of look at it, and I'm a nerdy guy, so I kind of look at the numbers.
I appreciate that about you
yeah,
a lot.
It's probably the first place I go is trying to figure out, is it something that I can finagle to make happen, from a financial standpoint, after capturing that idea.
Is there small business ownership in your family anywhere?
No.
How long had you talked about 2001 before you actually did it?
In my own head,
Yeah.
probably 5 or 7 years,
Okay.
a while.
We hear that, yeah.
Verbally, out even to my wife, not very long, maybe a year or less. She did not know that I had thoughts in my head about starting a business of my own. And even when I did start, because of the way I brought it to her, she probably wasn't thinking, well, he's going out completely on his own.
Yeah.
That's not
Right.
how it was presented. So
She thought it was more of a hobby or a side hustle,
Yeah.
a way to bring in a little extra income, and
Yeah.
you were putting the cogs in motion to turn this into the way that you were going to feed your family for the rest of your life.
yeah,
It's
that's
pretty
right.
awesome.
So piggybacking off of Trinity's question about the processes and procedures, you as just Scott up until whenever, you have Sean and Jethro now. Mm-hmm. Has that process, now that you have employees, changed on, hey guys, let's workshop this, doing it with those three versus when you were just you?
Yeah, it has helped tremendously because it gives me another perspective whenever something comes up. Especially you talked about process change, so those guys would probably laugh if they were here because I do like to change things, and everyone doesn't like to change things like I do. So
She is liking you
yeah.
more and more every time you answer.
So the way we deal with that, so I had to rein myself in, and they helped me with that. But the way we deal with that is that we meet every week, and if there's something on my mind that I'm thinking about doing, I have learned that I probably should share that with them during those weekly meetings, and so now that's what we do. So before I go off and do something crazy,
Pull the trigger on something crazy.
Yeah,
Yep.
we talk through it, and I at least get a nod from them, or I can read their facial expressions usually as to whether it's something that's going to pay off. But that's important because if I make a change and they don't have buy-in on that, it's not probably going to work out. So I've learned, and I learned that the hard way by making changes that didn't work out. And doing things that everyone wasn't on board with. So I have learned, but that's important.
Do you find the three of you look at it completely differently?
We do. We're very different personalities,
Good.
and yes, we do look at it differently. Yep.
That helps, and that's how you learn. Is like, oh, I never really looked at it from that angle. And sometimes it makes a lot of sense when they say it, doesn't it?
That's for sure. They are much more wise than me in a lot of areas.
What that's done, though, the B part of what I'm hearing now is because that relationship has developed, it has taken the pressure off of you having to be there every day, and has turned you more into a lead generator, business development person, right?
Yes, for sure. That is a huge benefit because in 2008, 2006, 2010 even, it was me. So I was going and getting the business, finding the business, doing the work, making the sign, and delivering it and taking care of the whole thing. So having them around and being able to completely trust them to do what they need to do and to have the knowledge to do it is just, that's priceless, because it does free me up to network and to build relationships and to think about that next crazy thing that we want to do.
What is your next crazy thing that you want to do?
Wouldn't you like to know?
I
There was
would.
no way that was getting past her. No way.
Well, I know just a little bit about what you do because I am a client of yours. You make my giant face look fantastic on all my signs that are in people's yards.
Can I say that you can wrap a bus, right?
Absolutely.
Doesn't her face need to be on the side
think
of a
so.
bus? I
Heck
think that would
no.
be awesome.
No.
If I got to wear those bike shorts and those socks with a whistle being Coach Mike, your face needs to be on the side of a bus. I might even pitch in for that.
Well, it's always been a dream of mine to own a bus or an RV and travel across the country. So maybe at some point I will, just for shits and giggles, stick my face on the side of a giant bus.
I would pitch in. Will one of you two explain that real estate business that Scott has? Because you don't promote it a lot, but you're starting to promote it more at networking events, right?
Yes. So this is something that has kind of grown up, and that's how I know Trinity, because it's grown up in a relationship with Hunter Rowe, who Trinity works with, and basically it's filling a void, in my opinion, of helping real estate agents not have to think about how they deal with signs when they have a listing. So we try to make it almost effortless for a real estate agent to get all of the signage taken care of, including every part of it: their panels, their frames, their riders, the repairs, the maintenance, all of the different things that come, storage and all of that. We try to bring all of that together into a package, and we basically just charge the agent for almost sort of like a Google service. So you're paying a service fee, and you're just getting all kinds of stuff in return for that fee that you pay. And it's a great thing. It's something that we've been doing for a really long time on a small scale, and it's something that I think has probably the most potential of anything else we do right now to really scale and grow. And so it is something that I'm starting to focus on now.
Yeah, I think if you're a local real estate agent in the Triangle area, you need to be talking to Scott, because I have never put a sign in the ground. I pray to God I never have to. Those poles are gigantic. I think they're almost taller than I am. There's not a chance in Hades I'm ever going to be able to stick one of those in the ground. We actually had one of our agents had a tree fall on her sign during a storm, and you guys got right out there and got that sign replaced for her. So definitely amazing customer service, and makes it completely turnkey, so we don't have to worry about any of it.
This goes back to a couple episodes ago when we're talking about time management. Trinity lives in the Durham area. If you had a listing in Wake Forest, which is easily 35 minutes without traffic, if you had to leave your house, well, first of all, you got to load up your car with a sign and a shovel and all the things you need to put that, drive out there, dig the hole, put the sign in, do all that stuff, and then drive home. That's what, 3 hours?
Yeah.
Maybe 4?
I mean, if I had to do it on my own, it's probably 6 hours, because I'd be sitting there cursing every word in the book, trying to figure out how to get this sign to stick in the yard.
And that's what I love about the service is what do you do when you have a listing coming up? Literally.
Nothing.
Okay. And when you say nothing, what do you send in the address?
So I absolutely do nothing, because my team does it for me.
Which is good management.
I'm blushing so hard right now because it makes me sound a little lazy, but I'm really not, I promise.
No, you set up the processes. That's what this is all about.
That is our goal.
So my client service managers, once I get that listing agreement signed, they send they log into a portal, and in that portal they make the sign request, and then that goes to Scott's team, and Scott's team sends it out. They deploy it. They take a picture of it. They send us the picture that it's been deployed. We know that the sign's in the yard. We verify it's in front of the right house, and that's That's it. They go out there and change the riders for me. When I sell a house in 3 days or 2 days or 0 days, whatever it is, they go out
Before
there.
days.
Yep.
And this is what I've learned. This was the real value to me, because they'll put out coming soon, for sale. And in Trinity's case, that sign will be out there about 2 days, the for sale. And then under contract, contract pending, and then sold.
Yep.
So you'll go out there for change every one of those.
Yep.
That's what the value. That's the value I see in it.
On average, we make about 3 trips, maybe 4 trips to a listing that goes completely through the cycle, which we want to see every one of our listings sell and go all the way through.
Mm-hmm.
Will you plug the website where realtors listening can?
Yeah, if you want to check it out, and there is an information presentation there, it's at prosignservices.com where you can go and see that.
prosignservices.com. Ladies and gentlemen, check it out. And even if you're not a residential realtor, if you're a commercial real estate agent, or if you have anything that you need to use signs for, if you're hosting an event, if you have a church that needs directional signs, Scott is your man. You are the man.
I actually did an email intro for you to a mortgage broker. He wanted a sign in the yard that says this house that was just sold was financed by his mortgage company. That's the first time I'd heard that.
You just reminded me that I need to give you some thank you for business.
Ooh, oh, so it went through?
Yes, sir.
Fantastic.
I'm mad today.
Fantastic.
That's it. But here's another example, which is why I love this whole story of the evolution of your business. You found a niche. You didn't really you didn't have to create anything. That opportunity existed. Because realtors like Trinity, probably most realtors like, God, I got to go dig another hole in the ground again, and it's crooked, and most of us couldn't put a sign in straight. I don't care who you are. So, but you found a niche and thought you did your due diligence on that, what it would take, because we know you, and I know there's a really good spreadsheet, but again, that's how you know. But you found a niche, and you figured out how to service that.
Yep.
He did. And he's constantly working on ways to improve it. Like we have the lights on our signs now. So I have one in my neighborhood right now. And every night when I walk the dogs around the block, I see my shining face illuminated by that light. And it just reminds me how awesome you are.
You told a story a couple episodes ago. Was it a lady in Panera's?
Oh my gosh, yes.
And this is all Scott's work. So Scott gets full credit for this.
I was at Panera putting some creamer and honey in my coffee, because that's how I take my coffee for anyone listening. And there was 3 women at the coffee counter at the same time as me, and they're all kind of looking at me, and the one says, I know you. I know you from somewhere. And I said, well, I'm a real estate agent, so I know a lot of people. She's like, your sign, it's in my neighborhood. And it was so embarrassing because they recognized my face from my giant sign. And for those of you that have not seen our signs, the reason I say giant face is because it's a little bit bigger than life size. So it really is a very large face on that sign.
Yes, but that is exactly what you want, is to be recognized by people who you don't know, because that means that your sign is working.
It's working, and it's memorable.
This question is to both of you, you from a service side of it and you from the client side of it. What does that do for your brand? That big sign in that yard for however long it's there, and then it's in another neighborhood over another. What does that do for your brand? And then what feedback do you hear from other realtors?
So I would say from a branding standpoint, what it really is communicating to potential home buyers. The reason that I invest in using really good signage is because my clients 90% of the time are going to put the effort into making their home look absolutely spectacular before they put it on the market. Most of them are putting in new flooring, they're painting, we're getting their home in show ready condition. So if you think about the total marketable package of a home, if somebody rolls up to this house after they've seen these beautiful pictures on the multiple listing service online, and they get there and there's a crappy, rinky-dink, cheap-ass looking sign in the yard, that doesn't fit with the image of what we're trying to sell. So for me, my sign is part of my brand, which is I'm not going to do things just the cheapest because that's the way to do it. I'm going to do it for the best return on investment. And if that means using a little bit more expensive signage because it's going to give me a return on investment, I'm absolutely going to do that. Putting the lights on there, absolutely going to do it. I mean, it's pennies on the dollar for, especially over the winter, it makes total sense because half the time that people are driving up and down the streets of a neighborhood, it's dark already starting at 5 o'clock.
That's right.
So it makes total sense to have a lit sign.
What kind of feedback do you get from other realtors?
Yeah, so I think the majority of the realtors that use us because they want to stand out, and we provide a product to them that allows them to have a sign that just looks absolutely professional in the yard, and it's going to draw the attention to buyers quicker than like the angle iron sign, the little black or white sign that has the two things that somebody went and pounded into the ground
That you can buy at Walmart on a Saturday wearing dressed in your crappy clothes. Yeah, that's not the kind of real estate companies that we're working with here.
That is so old school too.
Yeah, so this is the kind of market we're in today is a market where you need to distinguish yourself, and I think this is just a way that the realtors distinguish themselves.
And the Raleigh-Durham market, which is the triangle, is very active, very competitive, and it's those little things, right, that make you stand out, or at least you as Trinity with Hunter Rowe, and you as a client of ProSign Services, everybody enjoys that value, right?
150%.
There you go.
So, Scott, I'm just going to drill you with one more question.
Okay, you ask hard questions.
Okay, fine.
Trinity.
2 more. They're not hard. You've listened to this podcast. It is a lot more difficult when you're the one on the other side of the microphone.
Yes.
What was one unforeseen obstacle that you've overcome since you started your small business?
Okay. One obstacle that I've overcome. I don't have like an accounting degree or a business degree or, any kind of formal education that would have taught me the things that you need to know as a business owner. So I would say that has been an obstacle because when I started the business, it was me learning from the ground up, learning about every aspect of business, not just how to balance the account every month, but also where do I go to look for business, or what do I do when I have issues with customers and things like that. That in the beginning was hard. I struggled with just knowing what does it take to make the next step in the direction that I want to go. And so that's been a hurdle that I feel like I've overcome, at least to some degree, and I'm taking more steps now. So yeah.
Excellent.
Did you have to convince yourself to start your own business?
That's a good question. I would say no. I think I always wanted to do it unconsciously, I think, from as far back as I can remember. So the want was there. It was just the taking action part that was the challenge.
For all of our listeners, both domestically and internationally, they're working full time, not really what they want to do, and they got this idea. What are the first 3 things they need to do to follow in your footsteps of making that happen?
Well, the first thing is to just commit to yourself that you're going to take a step. I would think about the steps that you need to take. Then I would take the first step, whatever that step is. Just move forward, because that's the biggest obstacle that you're facing. Is that I would say it's just fear. I was scared, and I'm still scared sometimes with some of the things that go on. But if you don't take a step, then you're not going to know what could have been. I would not be. I think you guys have talked about this before, about being afraid of failure. In fact, I think you had a whole episode on failure. And I would agree 100% with that. If you're afraid of failure and you don't take an action because of that fear, you're probably not going to succeed in business, because you have to face those obstacles and you just have to move forward. Failure is an excellent teacher. And that's what I would say.
Yes, it absolutely is.
So any other tips to somebody sitting at home thinking, I really would like to do this, but
Yeah, I would say the other thing is just to, if you want to have the best shot, you want to be prepared when you take that step. That doesn't mean that you need to have everything you need and you need to have a year's worth of cash in the bank or something like that. But it just means that you need to be prepared that, you know, things might be more difficult than they look on paper. You know, we can plan out how we want to do something, but there's always going to be something that comes up that we didn't expect. So be prepared for that.
Plan Bs are always good, aren't they?
Yes.
I know my brother at Trinity, we talked about some different things, and Drago as well, and they're a lot like my brother. It's like, okay, if everything went to hell, what would happen? What would the things look like? And then easier to build up than a lot of times like, oh, I'm going to make $100,000 my first year.
Yeah.
We have a small business seminar coming up for people like Scott. If you have an idea, trying to get something going, we can help them, can't we?
We can. If you out there in listener land have not yet gone to your goals that you set at the beginning of the year and reviewed them, ooh, you're a prime candidate to come to our small business seminar. If you're sitting there going, what the heck? What goals? You're also a prime candidate for our small business seminar. If you have never set a goal, you're a great candidate for our small business seminar. So have it. It's very interactive. It's very fun. It's a workshop format, and it is on the luckiest day of the year, March 13th, Friday the 13th, from 10 to 12. And we would love to see you there. If you want more information, you could email us, info@wiredtochange.com.
With the number 2.
Or you can go out to our website, wiredtochange.com, and you can scroll to the bottom of the page and go ahead and book it now.
Please do, because limited seats are available. We'd love for you to do that. Also, if you will rate, review, and subscribe to our podcast, we appreciate all the support and help. We could use numbers, so just click on it. So even if you don't listen to the whole thing, we kind of think there's a nugget or two you may learn from that, and we always appreciate the support.
And if there's any reason whatsoever you wouldn't listen to the whole podcast, you better email me and let me know what it is, because I'm Mrs. Fix-It, and I would like to make it better.
Scott, we appreciate it. It's a wonderful story of you taking that leap of faith on yourself and then understanding how to scale. So I think it's a lot people can learn from. So if you want to know a lot, just walk into Dynamic Print Solutions shop here in Raleigh. Just ask for Scott. You have to buy the cup of coffee, and he'll tell you everything he knows on how he can help you.
Thank you very much for having me.
We will see you next time on our Wired to Change podcast.